And we are rolling on October 1st here at UCLA. October 1st. November 1st. I'm a month behind. We're rolling on November 1st, where it's a sort of a sunny day. Sunshine is shining, and we're about to hear some extemporaneous speeches. First from Balin, who's going to address the question, manufacturing, what effects will declining rates have on the U.S. economy?
All right. So before I get into my speech, I want to ask you guys a few questions about manufacturing. If you don't know the answer, just shout something out. It's fine. Okay. So true or false? The average American manufacturing worker has 10 to 12 times more output than the average Chinese manufacturing worker.
False.
Surprisingly, it's true. So, okay. My next question is, how much of the U.S. workforce can be attributed to manufacturing? Like, what percentage do you guys think?
43.
53? Okay. It's actually 9, which is actually a lot considering the other 80% come from service-providing jobs like doctors, lawyers, teachers, etc. Okay, and then my last question is, if the manufacturing industry were its own sector, or its own economy, excuse me, it would be the A, 19th, B, 11th, or C, 9th largest economic power in the world. 19, 11. Anybody? It's actually C, the 9th largest power in the world. Okay, you see, the manufacturing industry is a fabric of our society, and I don't think we realize how important of a role it plays in the U.S. economy, which I believe why declining rates will have a negative effect on the U.S. economy. One of the reasons I believe this to be true is because manufacturing gives the U.S. power not just economically, but socially. Secondly, the goods that come from manufacturing are essential to two very important components of the economy, trade and service industries. And lastly, it makes a contribution to the personal economics, wherein it provides tens of millions of jobs to its citizens. Now, if these reasons I explained to you aren't enough to convince you how important the role manufacturing is in our economy, then think of it this way. Without manufacturing, we wouldn't have computers to type on, phones to text on, clothes to wear, cars to drive in. I mean, the list goes on. Basically, without manufacturing, we would have close to nothing, and I think it's safe to say that none of us want to live in a world where this is the case. Okay, so that being said, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. If manufacturing rates were to decline in the U.S., this would compromise the U.S.'s power not just economically, but socially. Now, economic power. Economic growth comes from technological development. Why, you might ask? Well, technological development increases manufacturing productivity because it creates more efficient ways to produce products from the limited amount of resources we have at a low cost. Now, manufacturing productivity combined with an upward trend is essential to the economy because it not only increases the standard of living, it makes consumers more wealthy, it makes businesses more profitable, all while enabling a higher government tax revenue. Okay. Now, if manufacturing productivity did not exist, neither would these benefits. Socially speaking, manufacturing provides the foundation for the U.S. as a global great power. Now, the great powers of the world control about 75% of global production of manufacturing technologies because it is the machinery produced from manufacturing that is used for national wealth and military equipment. That being said, it isn't enough to have more factories and to produce more goods. Countries have to know how to make the machinery that makes these goods in order to be powerful. The key to power is then to make the means of production. Now, these global powers must exist because if all countries had the same capacity to produce these manufactured goods, then they wouldn't have a way to threaten and dominate one another. Therefore, if manufacturing were to decline in the U.S. would no longer hold control over the global production of manufacturing technologies, thereby giving it no leverage over other countries and compromising its power as a global great power. Okay, my second point is, if the amount of goods produced from manufacturing were to decrease, it would have a negative effect on trade and service industries, which are two very important components to the U.S. economy. Now, according to the World Trade Organization, 80% of trade is in goods, leaving the remaining 20% up to services. That being said, if manufacturing these goods, which are then later on traded after production, were to decline, then the U.S. would rack up a large and growing trade deficit, which would decrease the value of the dollar. Now, if the dollar becomes cheaper, then imports will become so expensive that the U.S. won't have the capacity to replace them. As for service industries, about 2/3 of most U.S. economies are comprised of service industries. Industries that, which I'm sure you can guess, rely on buying and selling manufactured goods to keep operating and progressing. Retail and warehousing industries, take that for example, that makes up 11% of the economy. So stores like the Gap, it's a retail industry that relies on buying and selling clothes to keep its market afloat. Or Costco, a warehousing industry, relies on buying and selling a large variety of products sold in large quantities at a lower than retail price to keep not only operating but progressing. The same can be said about real estate. 13% of the economy relies on buying and selling real or physical assets such as buildings, which are made up of manufactured goods. Without the goods produced for manufacturing, these services on a larger scale industries have no chance at survival. Okay, my last point. A decline in the manufacturing sector means the elimination of tens of millions of jobs. According to the OECD, in 2014, 13.4% of manufacturing employment accounted for the total U.S. employment, whereas in Japan it accounted for about 20% and Germany it accounted for about 23%. That means that if the U.S. had the same percentage as Japan, it would have about 7 million more high-quality, long-term, well-paying jobs to provide for its citizen, and about 10 million more of those same exact jobs if it had the same percentage as Germany. Now, according to the National Association of Manufacturers, the average U.S. manufacturing worker actually makes about $80,000 a year, including pay and benefits. In fact, 92% of all manufacturing employees are eligible for health benefits, which makes it the sector with one of the highest percentages of employees eligible for health benefits. Without manufacturing, these employees would not receive these type of benefits and perks. Lastly, the Economic Policy Institute holds that for each job, or each manufacturing job supports 3 other jobs in the wider community. This is known as the multiplier effect, wherein the jobs or the wages earned from manufacturing employees are respent in the economy. Okay, so to summarize my 3 main points, I have explained to you that the declining rates of manufacturing will negatively affect our economy because it will compromise the U.S. power economically and socially. It will affect trade and service industries, which are important to keep the economy running. And lastly, it will reduce the amount of jobs that it can provide for its citizens. As my speech concludes, there should be no doubt in this room that the declining rates of manufacturing will have a negative effect on the U.S. economy. That being said, the next time you're out shopping and you're deciding on whether or not to buy that shirt or that brand new video game, you can use the argument, I'm helping out the economy, as justification. Thank you.
Thank you. 6:58. Good. Starting in the rear.
Hi, I'm Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
I think that your speech was really well presented. You're very clear, you enunciated very well. You had the arm movements, the hand movements, not mine, sorry. When like we do this when like, for example, like, you know, in those situations. An improvement, I think, honestly, maybe you could have done where he suggests, like, no, a first point, you know, kind of like,
move around
your space around you.
Okay.
But other than that, I think it was really, really good.
Thank you.
Improvement.
Hello, Karina.
Hi, Karina.
Hi, Karina. Well, I haven't find any improvements. I think she did very well.
She was perfect.
Yeah.
Just like Jesus.
Pretty close.
Okay. Okay. You don't need any improvement. Okay, Bailey. Bailey, let me talk to you a little bit about your speech. What effects will declining rates have on the U.S. economy? What I wondered initially, and I'll go through this, but overall, I liked the speech. You were very well informed. You knew your stuff. You did your research, and my only suggestion just would be a little bit more of citing the sources with
I
a
was worried about
bib.
that,
with the bib and as the model did, and I want to say that to all of you, cite your sources orally so your audience can consider them, because we can't read your footnotes, you know. So, but beyond that, when you see yourself tonight on YouTube, you'll see you were kind of wed to your script a little bit, which is why you didn't wander too far to the left or to the right, and you kept it pretty much in the center, which was fine for me for running the camera, but would have been a little bit more effective to move a little further. Yeah. Let's first take the question, manufacturing, what effect will declining rates, assuming of manufacturing, have on the U.S. economy? Now, this question assumes there's going to be declining rates, right? Mm-hmm. And I guess that assumes what? Globalization or poor trade packages or an aging workforce or a million other things. And nonetheless, I felt maybe you wanted to just identify that assumption that was going into this. That
identify that, like, obviously there's going to be a negative effect. Rather than like, oh, it's going to have a negative effect.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's start with your introduction. This was creative, and I gave you points for being creative, for creating a little quiz show, and giving them 3 choices, and that really solidified the information, and they had to think. Yeah. And then when they got the right answer, they were, I see, it's 9%. See? And it's 80%. Oh my God, that's high, and so forth. So I like the creativity of that. My only question would be on the tie back.
Yeah, tie back to it. Yeah.
Would tie back to that. Yeah. So you want to say, so if you want to keep this at 9%, 80%, 80%, then buy that cute shirt or tie. Okay, see my point? Yes. Yeah. And be making a more overt tie back. Your thesis was good, a little wordy. I would have tried to get it, and with your voice, stress that it's not just economically, but socially as well. Crucial for trade and service, stress your thesis. Your 6th statement was a really good sell. It was very impressive. Which is to say, without this stuff, you're not going to have anything at all. So you sold it well. You understand the significant statement. So I was pleased by that, Bailey. Your first argument. If the manufacturing rates were declining, U.S. would lose power not just economically, but socially. Now here, I wondered what assumptional facts you were thinking of. Is it a big drop? Is it a small drop? Is it a gradual drop? I don't know, but anyway, something to think about there. So you talked about the great powers, and you made a strong argument there for the foundation of a global great power, and I just wonder what the blue line is for when we no longer become a global great power with the decline, or is it already happened, or something like that. On your second argument, effects, we won't be. So the effect is we'll no longer be a global great power. Yeah. Right? So, but there's another effect. Decreased trade and service. And then here you made a strong argument with the Gap and Costco and 13% in real estate. So you were very thorough in your coverage. Like it was written like a good econ major would, really. Your third argument decline in manufacturing center eliminates the possibility of tens of thousands of jobs. And here you were just being hypothetical that if we could have what Japan or Germany had, we would have more.
Yeah.
And I don't know, whoever thinks we're going to come up to Japan or Germany's level, except Donald Trump. I don't know how he gets his figures. Your third and fourth point, though, about the $80,000 and the insurance they get, and that it cascades out and supports many more jobs, was excellent.
Great.
Just well done. And so you supported your claim that the possibility of tens of millions of jobs. So that was well argued. Now, your summary was more succinct. Your conclusion was good. Your tieback I already talked to you about. Now, to make this a little more sticky, I thought you had a fairly simple thesis. I don't know if you could have made it even simpler, but you might want to toy with that a little bit to think
more
about
concise. It sounds like a lot of things need to be more concise.
Yeah. And your credibility on your citations could have been enhanced. You, by your nature, by how much research you've done, were very naturally credible. It wasn't too abstract. I didn't see too many eyes glazing over. You didn't talk about too many weird economic terms or phases like reverse inflation.
Yeah. I figured if I couldn't say them, I don't think many other people
Right,
could, so.
exactly right. And the emotions, though, still could have been perked up a little bit more. You got some good emotions going in your significant statement. I would have played the angle that a job is a lifeblood to a man or to a woman.
Yeah.
It's how they grow their own self-worth. It makes them feel good about themselves. It makes them feel a producing part of society and that sort of thing. Yeah. So maybe I would have worked the emotional angle that way. And then if you had any stories that you could have put in here, and granted you were at 6:58, but so something would have had to go. But stories are always helpful, maybe in the intro or in the closing, for memorability of your thesis or your point. So if you found a story that captured the effect of the decline, that'd be too melodramatic, but opiate addiction, and stuff like that, so forth. So, Balin, overall, you did a nice job. Thank you. And this is your Extemp 1, right?
Yes, sir.
Is there anybody else that has yet to do Extemp 1? Okay, come forward. Is your question on the board, sir? Great. Great. Now we're getting down to brass tacks. Okay, good.
Hi, I'm Ash.
Hi, Ash.
Okay, so I want you to imagine that you're having a baby. Okay, so it's the happiest day of your life. You're anxiously waiting in the waiting room. You're anxiously waiting in the waiting room. You waited so long for this. Finally, the doctor calls you in. It's time. You walk in. You walk in not knowing what to expect, very nervous. After what feels like hours of screaming in pain, you finally hear the cry of a baby. You've never been so happy to hear a baby. You've never been so happy to hear a baby cry before. As you go to embrace your kid, you're holding him in your arms, And as you look upon its head, you notice that the head is a little smaller than usual. But that's fine. It's your first baby, and you love it anyway. As you're holding the baby, lovingly in your arms and embracing it, a sea of doctors come rushing in. They start surrounding your baby. They look to you and they tell you that your baby's skull and his brain is abnormally small. They tell you that your baby, your baby would grow up with severe disabilities if it were lucky to survive at all. Today, I'm here to answer the question, what role will the World Health Organization play in the Zika outbreak? What role will the World Health Organization play in the Zika outbreak? My answer is, they will play 3 very important roles. The first role they will play is they will help shape the research agenda for the Zika outbreak. The second role they will play is they will help monitor, control, and eradicate the virus. The third role they will help. The third role they will play is by providing resources, because they're a big organization. So according to a article published in 2016 in the Wall Street Journal, studies have shown that babies born to mothers that were infected with the Zika virus were born with abnormally small skulls and brains, and they will either grow up to have long-term cognitive disabilities, or they will die shortly after birth. The Zika virus is spread through mosquito bites and sexual transmission. It originated in Brazil and has made its way across South America and has actually finally reached the United States. People in Florida have been infected with the Zika virus, and if vital steps are not taken soon, it will soon spread across the continental United States. The first role the World Health Organization will play in the Zika virus outbreak is by helping shaping the research agenda for the Zika virus. According to its website, WHO.International, the World Health Organization is the directing and coordinating authority of international health within the United Nations. Due to this, they are capable of directing attention and spreading awareness of the Zika virus, as well as prioritizing its research and funding its research on its own. For this reason, the WHO will be at the forefront of the Zika virus research. The second role they will play is to help monitor, control, and eradicate the virus. The World Health Organization is capable of very aggressive eradication campaigns against viruses. According to its website, in 1980, in the 1980s, smallpox was eradicated globally due to a WHO-led eradication campaign. The third role that the World Health Organization will play in the Zika outbreak is by providing resources. The World Health Organization is a very strong power in the United Nations, and it is funded by dues paid by countries in order to be part of the organization. Even though the Zika virus has not spread to Europe, they are still capable of using their funds to help less developed countries that are going through the outbreak. So far, mostly it's 4 countries in South America. I have shown you, in summary, I have shown you 3 important roles that the World Health Organization will play in the Zika outbreak, which include shaping the research agenda, helping eradicate the virus, and providing resources. There should be no doubt in this room that the World Health Organization will play a vital role in the Zika outbreak by providing resources, helping eradicate the virus, and by shaping its research agenda. Protect your babies, fight the Zika virus. That's so hard.
9.
Ash.
What?
Did you say my name?
Did I say your name? No, I said the time. 3:29.
Oh, okay. Let's try to go slower. I did a lot slower.
I can say your name though, Ash. In the rear.
Hi, I'm Lucy.
Hi, Lucy.
Well done, Ash. I thought you were really structured, like you followed the guidelines pretty well. Your delivery was like easy to follow as well. Yeah, good job.
Okay.
My name is John.
Hi.
When you were telling the story in the beginning, it was really good. It was a good story, but it seemed like when you deliver, it sounded like a script that you're reading off the script. And you were holding your hands throughout your speech.
I was so nervous.
Yeah, nervous and looking at you.
Those are good.
Other than that.
Great. Okay, Ash. Let me start on a positive note and give you feedback. I appreciate you choosing this topic. It's an important one, and the results of these babies being born, it's horrific. And the fact that there's been a lot of inaction on the United States part and other Western democracies has been nothing short of criminal. I think we should have acted a long time ago. But anyway, let me get back to your speech and give you some help into how it might be more effective. Just some of the basics that I keep saying to other people, and I'll say to you as well. I need to have citations in the speech delivered orally where you got your information. So you said, according to the Wall Street Journal studies, year?
No, like, that's what they said. Like, the article was like, studies have shown.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
I know. It would have been better to like go like find the studies and name them.
and according to the World Health Organization website, year you accessed it, and you need to do better than just go to the WHO website for your research. Okay? So that's sort of the first thing. And then the second thing is your intro was, I guess, a grabber. It was kind of a downer at the end. You said, imagine the happiest day in your life. You're having a baby. And I looked around the room and everyone's smiling, and then you segue into your baby's head is kind of small and the doctors are screaming, severe disability, she's going to die soon, lucky to live at all. So it was a really interesting kind of intro. I guess it was a grabber. I thought your transition to your question was a little abrupt. And so I think what you want to do is you want to say something like, lucky to live at all. And you want to say, and this story that is happening in hospitals across the world brings me to wonder about a disease that's occurring in this world, i.e. the Zika outbreak. And more particularly, I want to answer the question, what role will the World Health Organization play in the Zika outbreak? Now, what did you notice about what I did versus what you did?
I just kind of went right to it.
Yeah, yours was abrupt and mine was smooth, and you want to have smooth transitions that get you from one point to another, okay? So, that's the first thing. So my answer is that they will help shape the resource, monitor, control, eradicate, and provide valuable resources. your significant statement, which was from the Wall Street Journal, which you didn't unpack the study, is Latin America, and you were trying to do a scare technique. It's going to make its way to the United States. Well, it's made its way to the United States. It's Florida and so forth. So it was an okay significant statement. I guess it was kind of a scare significant statement, right? Is that what you were going for?
It's kind of hard to make it like happy.
I understand. Yeah. Okay. So, on your first claim as to your belief that who's going to play this gigantic role, you do nothing but quote who saying they're going to play a big role. And it would be helpful to have some other people of the United States or other organizations or other people saying this is a natural thing for who to be involved in and to direct and to organize. Not saying you're wrong, but it's just a little self-serving to have who be the person you're quoting for all this. You did give the eradication of smallpox as the WHO-led immunization campaign. And you said, who knows, with enough research, who may be able to do the same thing with the Zika virus. My sense is this has to come in individual countries' laboratories, and then the UN coordinates it and disperses it there. On your third role, dues paid by the country, who is capable of diverting resources from Europe and the United States to try to get the job done, although they haven't really done that so far. And so what I would say is what your three arguments lacked was any independent people researching and talking about who's addressing, who's going to get on top of this, besides who, Your summary was fine. Your conclusion was fine. And your tie back, protect your babies, fight the Zika virus was fine. You listed one source here. Here are your canais. You said, slow down, speak clearly, remember the speech. How did it go?
I felt like I was messing up. It was like I was kind of blanking, like in some parts. So then I started saying, saying what I thought, like not exactly what I wrote, but I started trying to
extemporaneous. Yeah, just getting something out. Okay. I want to say that I found your excessive walking distracting. You'll see tonight when you watch yourself on YouTube that you pretty much paced the entire speech. You pretty much walked back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. My recommendation would be you walk more purposefully, that you say you stand and deliver your intro, your thesis, your sixth statement in the center, and you say, so the first reason I think who's going to be major, you deliver over here, come over here and work this side of the room. The second reason who's going to be big, and then come back to the center for your third. What I'd like you to see is one of your goals next time, your canais, is not to pace, okay? Okay? Other than that, you did a nice job. Thank you, Ash. Okay, give yourself a round of applause. Extemp speech 1 is done. Yeah. Okay, time for Extemp speech 2. Is there a 1 up on the board? No? Or me, I have to call on people? Okay, great.
Hell yeah.
Thank you. We love volunteers.
Yeah,
evaluation form's on the back. It's the last page.
Great. Do we have an undecker that can be writing theirs on the board now? There you go. Okay, no.
Always.
Always, yeah.
Your job's so hard.
Perfect. Isabel stands before us on November 1st with an extemporaneous question that she wishes to address. And that is, could the Flint water crisis have been avoided? What a great question.
I'm Isabel.
Hi, Isabel.
Nakia Wakes moved to Flint, Michigan in 2014 with her bright, thriving son, Jaylon. The first year they lived there, he was suspended from school 1 time. The following year, he was suspended 56 times. These changes in Jaylon's behavior is believed to be linked to neurological problems associated with lead poisoning. This lead poisoning was caused from drinking Flint's water. Imagine waking up tomorrow and having to question if you're going to have clean water to drink. Imagine accidentally poisoning your own child. Imagine having your entire world turned upside down. This is exactly what happened to the 99,000 residents of Flint, just like Nakia Wakes and her son Jaylon. Today I want to answer the question, could the Flint water crisis have been avoided? And my answer is that yes. I will provide you 3 reasons, those being the first, there were red flags as early as October 2014. The second being that this was caused from human inefficiencies. And 3, that there was no valid reason for Flint to change their water supply in the first place. You should all care about why the Flint water crisis could have been avoided, because this puts our trust and reliability in the government into question. We should be able to look to the government and our representatives to protect us, not poison us. So the first reason that I think the Flint water crisis could have been avoided is that there were red flags about the safety of the water as early as October 2014. Let me just give you guys a quick summary of this problem so we're all on the same page. In April 2014, Flint decided to change their water supply from Detroit, the water that they'd always used, to Flint River water. This is about as great as it sounds. It was murky, smelled weird, tasted weird, and the residents noticed a change in the quality of the water right away. So they were kind of complaining to their officials and making it known that the water didn't seem clean. And by January of 2015, Detroit offered to put Flint back on their water supply to kind of halt the problem in their tracks. Flint said no and continued drinking this contaminated water. By September 2015, doctors are urging Flint residents to not drink the water because of how much lead is in it. And then by January 2016, they declared a state of emergency. In September of this year, the Senate approved a $10 billion water projects bill because Flint is still in crisis. So this is still going on. There were red flags early on, as soon as the water supply was changed. According to a CBS article written in March 2016, Governor Rick Snyder, who's the governor of Flint, was receiving information about this contaminated water way before the contamination problem became public, and he just chose not to say anything. This was a repeated problem with government officials that were being told that the water was not safe to drink, and they just kept turning a blind eye. I feel so frustrated in our government that they chose to take a wait-and-see approach with something as serious as water safety, when if they had just immediately addressed the problem, thousands of lives could have been spared. The second reason that I think that the Flint water crisis could have been avoided is because this was caused by human inefficiencies, not natural causes. Natural disasters like tornadoes and earthquakes are awful, but ultimately we can't prevent them. They're out of our control. This tragedy was caused by human inaction and those with decision-making power choosing to not act. A New York Times article in 2016 stated that this crisis is a story of government
inefficiencies, unpreparedness, delays in action, and environmental injustice. This didn't just happen to us. We knew that it was happening. These officials knew it was going on, and they just kept ignoring it. There was a private task force that was assigned to investigate this crisis over the past year to kind of diagnose the causes and figure out what we could do about it. And they found that they stated that it is extremely troublesome that the environmental agency, which is the state environmental agency, who was in charge of protecting the environment and human health, just chose to stick with their decision to stay with this water supply, even though there was repeated red flags telling them that they shouldn't be doing this. I feel so ashamed of our government that they chose to just not do their jobs right and let people continue to drink this poisonous water. The third reason that I think that the Flint water crisis could have been avoided is because there was no valid reason for Flint to change their water supply in the first place. They weren't doing this for any reason besides just to save money. So it wasn't broken, so why did they try to fix it? They ended up causing all these problems that were entirely preventable. They did this ultimately to save money, is what I said. So after the water was contaminated and Detroit offered to switch back to their water supply, the kind of electrical manager who was in charge of this, environmental manager, refused to take this offer, even though we already knew there were problems in the water and the residents weren't happy. And he did this because it would save them $1 million a year, in theory. But 2 years later, this has cost Flint so much money and the federal government so much money that would have been entirely avoidable had they just stuck with the water supply that they had always known and used. Dr. Mark Edwards of Virginia Tech actually said that if they had followed federal regulations and fixed the contaminated water right away, it would have cost them $100 a day for a month or so. So it's vastly reduced costs from what they've ended up spending. As I said, a $10 billion Senate bill was just approved to fix this issue. There should be no doubt in this room that the Flint water crisis could have been avoided. I've given you 3 reasons why I believe that this is true. The first being that there were red flags about the safety of the water as early as October 2014. The second being that this was caused by human inefficiencies, not natural causes. And the third being that there was no valid reason for Flint to change their water supply in the first place. There are certain things in life that we all really hope we can count on, and clean drinking water is one of them. I think that the government's inability to act, their refusal to accept their mistakes and then take responsibility for them, is just a tragic story. And looking forward, I hope that we can learn from this, and that the next time that our government officials are asked to choose between saving a life and saving a quick buck here and there, that they will always choose to save a life.
Thank you. Bye, Christine. Okay, where are we? Somewhere? Here.
Hi, my name is Moses.
Hi, Moses.
I think it was very good. It was really concise and clear. You provide us with 3 points why you believe that it could have been avoided, and it was really easy for the listener audience to understand it. Your movement was amazing. Like you first moved to the right side, and then you moved to center and moved to the right side. So overall, it was really good. I couldn't really think of improvement because it was really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Improvement?
Great job. Lovely. And maybe just try to change your volume up at different times. Work on your inflection, when you want to say something about how you felt so frustrated, maybe get a little louder so that point gets across. But yeah, it's good.
You have such a nice tone to listen to as well. Even though I agree with that, but it's yeah.
Yes, we do. There were times when we have your hands clapped together, holding your hands together, or that you were doing, so you'll see it tonight. So undo your hands, let them be by your side, let them be natural. I like your beginning, the story of the little boy that drank leaded water and was a good little boy until he started drinking leaded water, and then he was suspended 56 times. I was hoping to hear some tie back to him in the ending, and to say, in addition to everything you said, and to say, so there's no need for Nikita Walks to worry about Jalen's behavior of people who just acted responsibly. Something like that, okay. The other comment I would make to you is that you chose to focus mostly on the state, but your evidence, some of your evidence said that there's plenty of blame to go around, including the federal role in this, and they repeatedly turned and looked the other way too. So this was just a case at every level, federal, state, and local, just putting...
That's really sad. It's awful.
Putting profit above people, yeah. Okay, let's go through this. So your intro was a great grabber, and it worked very well with your storytelling. It drew everybody in and made them want to listen. Your thesis was well put. Your SIG statement was good. Your main body, and the way your first argument, where you did a little important little history and talked about the red flags that came early, and we knew quite a while, and there were lots of notices, and they turned the other way. And you used the I think this was just you getting excessive, but you said thousands of lives would have been spared, and you wrote altered, so you just got a little excessive in your rhetoric.
Or it's like they didn't die, but they were affected, so I was trying to think of the way.
They probably will, some will.
Yeah.
Like lead poisoning, there's really no cure for it, so it's pretty nasty what those people face in the future.
Yeah, they were like, there's 1 part of lead per billion, whatever, in water, a cup of water, and lead was like at 38 at one point.
Yeah.
Higher cups a little bit. So gross.
Yeah, they were poisoned. And, I don't know how much compensation you get for being poisoned, but it's not enough. Human inefficiencies, yes. You quoted nicely the New York Times, NPR, so you cited your sources with the dates, which is what I was after. Your third argument, there was no valid reason for Flint to change their water supply, and you emphasized that with your voice. That was good. Rolling Stone is an okay publication. I would have backed it up with somebody else as well. But still, if that was the only place you could find that was a good quote. Your summary was good, your conclusion was good, and as I told you, just a little more finessing of the tie back to bring in the little boy that was sent to the principal's office 56 times would have been a perfect tie back. Your canais, move 3 times. Connect arguments smoothly, speak clearly. How'd it go?
I think while the movement was good.
Stay in the power stance.
Maybe just, as they said, emphasize certain things better.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you did a very nice job, Isabel. Keep up the good work.
Time as well, just to make sure I don't
Free
go
country.
over. Okay. I forgot my self-evaluation, but I'll bring it next time.
Okay, good. Where are you? Here?
No. Other yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just set my own timer.
Can you pull I'm really butting back up to Isabel here. Can you pull that table back a little toward you? Toward you, that way. Yeah. Good. Not just a little bit forward that way now. Yeah.
That behind your cell phone.
Oh, thank you.
I've never seen one. That's amazing.
Where do you get that?
Popsockets.com.
Now what?
Popsockets.com.
Popsocket.
I must live under a rock because I've never seen or heard of them.
They're really fun to play with.
That's very practical.
So is it all?
Okay. Okay, Lauren is here on November 1st to comment on current event topic, an Extemp topic that asks this question. Did Sean Penn go too far with his interview of El Chapo?
Do you dream? What hopes do you have for the future? How's your relationship with your mom? Do you think it's true that you're responsible for the high level of addiction in the world, for the fact that there are so many drugs in the world? These are just a few of the many questions that Sean Penn asked El Chapo in his recent interview, and I'm going to be addressing the question today, did Sean Penn go too far with his interview of El Chapo? And my answer to that question is no. For three reasons. First, Penn met with El Chapo for the sole purpose of trying to open up a conversation about the war on drugs. Secondly, many officials maintain that their meeting is what ultimately led to his recapture. And three, just the nature of the interview itself, the questions that Penn posed really paint El Chapo in kind of a sympathetic light and humanize him. In this case, I don't think it went too far, and it actually could have gone a little further, which I'll explain a little bit later on in my speech. Now, we've all heard Donald Trump talk about the need to build a wall and how drugs are, quote, pouring into our country. So if you've ever wondered, how exactly these drugs are pouring into our country, a lot of this activity can be accredited to El Chapo, which is a nickname meaning shorty for Joaquin Guzman Loera, who is the leader of the Sinaloa drug cartel in Mexico. He's been charged with conspiring to import over 264,000 pounds of cocaine into this country between the years of 1990 and 2005 alone. And that's just cocaine. He's also linked to marijuana, narcotics, poppy, methamphetamine, etc. He's also linked to drugs being taken out of Colombia and a lot of South America and being exported all around the world. So he can be accredited to the large, just how many drugs we see in the country and around the world, addiction, as well as high levels of bloodshed that are associated with these types of activities. So the first reason why I don't believe that Sean Penn went too far with his interview is that Penn was just trying to start a conversation about the war on drugs. So if you guys aren't familiar with this topic, I'll kind of do a quick recap of what happened. It was really weird. So basically, El Chapo, he's in prison twice and he escaped twice. While he's in prison the first time, he started sending letters to Kate de Castilla, who is a famous Mexican soap opera star, and he signed off the rights to his movie to her because he wanted her to star in a movie about his life. So she got Sean Penn involved in the project because she thought that having him on board would increase the likelihood that major Hollywood studios would be interested in it. And so then when he escaped, herself and Sean Penn went to visit him in the Mexican jungle, where he was hiding out. Sean Penn then requested if he could write an article about him. El Chapo agreed, and so then Sean Penn went back to Los Angeles, came up with these questions, had them translated, sent them to him, and then El Chapo recorded himself answering them and then sent them back to him via BlackBerry cell phone. So he was interviewed on 60 Minutes about why he did this. It's all recounted in a March 2016 article in the New Yorker. And Penn's quoted saying, "My article has failed. The entire discussion about the article ignored its purpose, which was trying to contribute to discussion about and the policy about the war on drugs." So basically, Sean Penn is not known as he's kind of has a reputation of being a political activist, though he's an actor, but he's known for speaking out against the Bush administration, etc. But with this interview, he wasn't pushing any specific agenda. He wasn't really getting at
the specifics of the drug trafficking trade. It was more like he was kind of presented with this opportunity to get to know an international drug lord and just kind of took it. It wasn't really going too far. It was just like a really bizarre thing that he did, and everyone was just like, why are you, Sean Penn, going to meet with an escaped convict in the Mexican jungle? So the second reason why I don't believe Sean Penn went too far with his interview is that many officials maintain that their meeting is actually what ultimately led to him being captured. So in a 2016 New York Times article, they quote the Mexican Attorney General, who said that their meeting was essential in tracking him down. An article published in CNN around that same time, January of this year, saying that the cell phone signals they exchanged were used to pinpoint his location, which ultimately led to him being captured for the third time, hopefully the final time as well. So for this reason, and there's kind of like some back and forth about this, but he was captured so soon after their meeting that's kind of hard to deny that there's a link between the two. So because of this reason, I don't think the interview is going too far, because there's actually some good that came out of it as well. The third reason that I don't believe Sean Penn went too far with this interview is because just looking at the nature of the interview itself and like the questions that he asked really kind of allow you to sympathize with him. I encourage you guys all to watch it. It's 17 minutes long, but it's really interesting. I found myself after watching it really sympathizing with El Chapo. He comes across as like a family man, a religious man for sure, and someone who just didn't really have any other means of supporting his family economically in like a rural Mexican village. So he started harvesting marijuana and poppy at the young age of 15. So just the questions that he asked, it wasn't like Penn was really asking him like, how specifically did you get drugs into the U.S.? It was more about like him as a person and like his upbringing, which was really interesting. But in this case, like I don't think he was going too far. It was once again just like, it was a personal story. In this case, I think you could have actually gone further and asked him some more specific questions about trafficking. Granted, Penn wasn't there to like ask follow-up questions and probe him further, but it doesn't seem like he was going too far. Once again, it was more like his curiosity and just him as a person, getting to know him. So in summary, I provided 3 reasons why I don't believe Sean Penn's interview with El Chapo went too far. First of all, he was just trying to start a conversation about the war on drugs. He's not a known, political activist who's trying to be like a champion of the war on drugs. He just kind of presented with this opportunity to start a conversation, and he took it. Secondly, was that it eventually led to his recapture. And third, the nature of the interview itself, which kind of paints him in like a sympathetic light. So in conclusion, there should be no doubt in this room that Sean Penn should probably just stick to acting. A lot of the issue around this was just like, why are you going to meet up with a known drug lord who like the authorities are looking after? You should probably just like let the police handle that in the future. Just to tie back to the beginning, like some of the questions that were asked in the interview, when asked if he dreams and his hopes for the future, he says he hopes to live out the rest of the days that God has given him with his family. When asked about his relationship with his mom, he says it's perfect and it's a relationship of like love and respect and affection. When asked, do you think it's true that you're responsible for the high level of drug addiction and for the fact that there's so many drugs in the world, he simply says no. Drug trafficking isn't going to die when I die, and it's this network of people that rely on so much more than just him. So he doesn't think that he's responsible for that. And yeah, it's really interesting, and I encourage you all to watch it.
Thank you. 7:02.
I really like this speech. It was really interesting. I'm not next.
Hello. It was so great. Isabel.
Hi, Isabel.
Yeah, I thought you provided humor and like a lot of facts too, so we kind of knew the background, which was good. And then your transitions were really smooth, and the tie back to the beginning was awesome. Bueno.
Hi, I'm Bailyn.
Hi, Bailyn.
My suggestion would be, I felt like you looked down at your paper a lot, so maybe just not looking down as much. But other than that, it was really good.
Okay. Well, you chose a novel topic and took a good position, I thought, on it. And you opened with these questions that he asked, sort of personal questions, and you tied back to those. And so that was a good full circle, so I like that. You had a real clear thesis. No, he didn't go too far, and you gave your preview, and so that was good. That was a good preview. Your sixth statement, you said that Donald Trump talks about drugs pouring into our country, and along with lots of money and $300 billion a year worldwide. But we didn't really, I guess you were just trying to point out this is a big, big problem. Is that all you were trying to do there? Yeah. Okay. So you did that, and you pointed out that he has imported a lot. What you didn't mention about him, I don't know if you saw this in his research, was all the people he's alleged to have killed and had assassinated. So I don't know if you purposely sanitized
it just wasn't really
him.
in the interview that specifically.
No, I know it
you
wasn't.
Asked, do you consider yourself a violent person? And that was like really the only. So it's like just
No,
trying to stick
not
to
really.
He just goes, no.
No,
Like, okay.
not at all. Okay, yeah.
Like I just defend myself.
Yeah. So on your first argument, you gave us the Kate Del Castillo background, which was good, and you cited the New Yorker. Remember the date, and I like this. My article has failed. That was a good tidbit. Saying what I tried to accomplish, I didn't accomplish. So, on your second reason, the New York Times quote was good, and you felt that some good came out of that. So that was good. Your third reason why Penn didn't go too far, should have gone even further, is that Penn invites sympathy for El Chapo and focused on his personal life and feelings, and not on his criminal activity. And I was puzzled by why. Did you think he would have pulled out a gun and shot Sean Penn, or just the decorum of the situation?
Well, it's just like people who say that he went too far. Like you should have just let the authorities deal with this, but he wasn't trying to investigate his crimes.
He wasn't trying to capture him, get to know him and understand him. Okay. I like your conclusion. You should probably stick to acting. That was good. And tie back, you answered the question and used all your time, and you tied back to those questions that he started with. Your goals were to stay in the power stance, not go over 7 minutes, and to talk slower and to be more relaxed. How'd it go?
Still a little over time, but better than last time for sure. I tend to also clasp my hands together.
Yeah.
It's just like a natural way to speak, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
it goes a little better.
Once you see it, and if you, when you practice, if you have the people that you're practicing with alert you by raising your hand when you do this, then you'll stop doing it, and you'll become aware of what your nonverbal is up to. Nice job, Lauren. Thank you. Okay, are we ready for the next one? Does anyone have another one ready to go today? What's that time looking like? Oh yeah, we got time for a couple more. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Well, the battery is out, so I'll be changing the battery while I wait for someone to summon up the courage.